omitting needless words. That needs to be the hallmark of all of our writing and editing. People say, well, I don't want it too short and too choppy. The fact is you don't want one needless word. If you can cut it, cut it. Avoid subtle redundancies. This is kind of interesting. A lot of times, people know what a normal redundancy is, but what's a subtle redundancy? Listen to this sentence. She nodded her head in agreement. I've seen this even from best-selling novelists. She nodded her head in agreement. That's a hat trick redundancy. That's a triple right there. Start cutting that sentence from the back end. If she nodded her head, we know it was an agreement. We don't need in agreement. Okay, we're still cutting. Let's cut from the back end. If she nodded, we know it was her head. What else would she nod? I don't think I want to think about that. So instead of she nodded her head in agreement, just say she nodded. Now, if she nodded off to sleep, you say that so that it's not nodding because she's nodding her head in agreement. Another example. He clapped his hands. What else would he clap? Is he a seal? Did he clap his flippers? He clapped. She shrugged her shoulders. That's a subtle redundancy. What else would people shrug? You don't shrug your knees. You don't shrug your hips. A lot of times we see things like he blinked his eyes or he squinted his eyes. What else would you squint? What else would you blink? That's how you avoid subtle redundancies, and you also omit needless words. How about they heard the sound of a train whistle? Is that different from hearing a train whistle? Do we need to be told that it was the sound of a train whistle? The sound of can be deleted. Omit needless words, avoid subtle redundancies. Avoid the words up and down unless they're really needed. You see a sentence like, he rigged up the device. Do we need up? If he rigged the device, he rigged the device. She sat down on the couch. Where else would she sit if she was sitting on the couch but down? Unless it's some kind of a high couch. Usually delete the word that. I say usually because there are times when the word that really makes the sentence clearer, and you just need to learn when that is and use it when you need it. Give the reader credit. This is one of my favorite ones, and I write this in the margin of manuscripts often. So often, writers don't give the reader credit. They put quotation marks around words that are used in another context, and I give an example here, as if the reader wouldn't, quote, get it, unquote, otherwise. You see how subtly insulting that is? Usually, you don't need those quote marks around other words. Sometimes I've seen it say, she really felt down this morning. Quotation marks around the word down, as if she wasn't really down, she just felt sad. I mean, give the reader credit. The reader gets it. And so often we see things repeated in the next paragraph because I guess the reader's afraid, the writer is afraid the reader will have forgotten in a matter of 10 minutes what they were trying to say. So give the reader credit. Always be thinking that the reader is as smart as you are and gets it if you give them enough information. Avoid telling what's not happening. A lot of times I see lines like, there's some dialogue and maybe the female character says something stark or something shocking, and the next line is, he didn't respond. Well, if he didn't respond, just don't have him respond, and we'll know he didn't respond. Again, giving the reader credit. Don't tell what's not happening. Don't say, she didn't say anything. If you don't quote her, we know she didn't say anything. Or the crowded room never got quiet. If you described a crowded room, a party where people are talking and it's hard to hear yourself think, you don't have to say it never got quiet. Unless it gets quiet, then you say it got quiet. Avoid telling what's not happening. Here's a term I've heard from editors over the years, adjectival maniac. Avoid being an adjectival maniac. What does that mean? Good writing is a thing of strong nouns and verbs, not adjectives. This is a big problem with people who have taken, especially if you've taken a creative writing course, and I don't want to besmirch anyone's reputation, but if you've taken a writing course, maybe in high school or college, adult evening class, whatever, from a teacher who has not been published, Too often, these kind of teachers think that writing is made up of great adjectives, flowery phrases. Just like I thought as a teenager, thinking when I'm reading Truman Capote, I'm going to find out what these fancy words are that makes him a best-selling writer. The fact is, good writing is a thing of strong nouns and verbs, not adjectives. Look anywhere. Look in Time Magazine, Sports Illustrated, whatever your favorite magazines. Look at the big newspapers, the big dailies, USA Today. Look at your favorite columnist. Are they using adjectives all the time, or are they using strong nouns and verbs? You'll find they're using strong nouns and verbs. So use adjectives sparingly. Novelist and editor Saul Stein, he used to be a partner in Stein & Day, a great publishing company. This guy's a really an all-time pro. He says 1 plus 1 equals 1/2. Now, what does he mean? What he's saying is that the power of your words is diminished if you don't pick the stronger one. So if somebody writes, his big, fluffy winter coat was warm and toasty, Saul would say 1 plus 1 equals 1/2. Better to say he chose his toastiest coat and ventured out. If you're going to use an adjective, use one, use the best one. Instead of big, fluffy winter coat, warm and toasty, just pick one of those. He chose his toastiest coat and ventured out.